April 1944. Somewhere in the hedgerows of Europe, the night feels like it's holding its breath. A thin mist clings to the ground like smoke that forgot how to rise. The only light comes from a half moon and the weak glow of a cigarette burning behind a soldier's cupped hands. Private Eli Carter isn't supposed to be here. He isn't supposed to be leading anything. He's not an officer, not a hero in a propaganda poster, not the kind of man generals invite into map rooms. He's a quiet, overlooked soldier with dirt under his nails and a face that looks like it's seen too much, too early. Most men in the unit think he's just background, the guy who carries crates, the guy who never talks much, the guy who always notices things nobody else notices. But tonight, Eli is staring at a problem so big it could swallow an entire battalion. Because the enemy is coming. Not maybe, not possibly. They are coming. Recon says an armored column is moving toward this sector. If it reaches the crossroads by dawn, it cuts the supply line. The men here don't have enough anti-tank ammo, they don't have enough artillery, and they definitely don't have enough time. The order from command is short and brutal. Hold. Delay them. Buy time. Buy time is just another way of saying, some of you won't live through the morning. Eli hears the words echo in his head as he crouches beside a muddy trench wall. He watches the lieutenant argue with the sergeant. He watches men clean weapons that won't matter against tanks. He watches fear turn into that quiet, robotic focus soldiers get when panic would kill them faster than bullets. And then, Eli Carter sees something on the road, something that shouldn't be there. A broken-down supply truck from a previous movement, half sunk in mud, abandoned, useless. But in Eli's head, useless things have a habit of turning into tools. He doesn't know it yet, but what he's about to do will become the kind of story people repeat like a myth. One soldier, and a crazy trick that fooled an entire army. At first light, the unit's position becomes clear. They're sitting on a shallow defensive line, barely fortified, mostly hidden by hedgerows and trees. It's good cover for infantry. It's terrible cover against armor. The lieutenant, young, tired, and trying to look confident, pulls out a map and points with a shaking finger. If they hit from here, he says, tapping the road, they'll punch through in minutes. We can't stop them head on. The sergeant's answer is a bitter laugh. We're not stopping them, sir. We're just trying to make them slow down. A few men nearby exchange looks. Nobody says it out loud, but everyone understands what slowing down means in war. You slow down by dying in the road. Eli stays quiet. He listens. He watches. And he realizes the problem isn't that they lack weapons. The real problem is something else. The enemy believes they're weak. They believe this position is barely defended. They believe they can roll right through. And when an army believes something strongly enough, it becomes a kind of blindness. Eli thinks, what if we don't fight their tanks? What if we fight their certainty? Eli wasn't trained as a tactician. He wasn't a genius officer. But before the war, he worked odd jobs, repairing farm equipment, painting signs, building fences, jobs where you learned one truth fast. People see what they expect to see. A scarecrow isn't a person, but birds don't know that. A fake storefront isn't a business, but from the road it looks real. A shadow in a window isn't a sniper, but if the enemy thinks it is, they behave as if it's true. War is the same. Humans, soldiers included, are not cameras. They don't record reality. They interpret it. And Eli's mind keeps circling one idea like a predator. If we can make them think we're strong, they will act cautious. Caution buys time. Time saves lives. He looks again at the abandoned truck. He looks at the hedgerows. He looks at the thin fog that rises and disappears like breath. Then he whispers a sentence that changes everything. We don't need more guns, he says quietly. We need them to believe we have more guns. When Eli approaches the lieutenant, he doesn't announce himself like a hero. He doesn't demand attention. He just waits for a pause and then speaks softly. "Sir, I think we can make them stop." The lieutenant turns. His face is exhausted, skeptical. "With what? Our prayers?" Eli points down the road. "That truck." The sergeant's eyebrows lift. "That piece of junk?" "Yes," Eli says. "We move it into the bend where the road narrows. We build something on it." "Like what?" the lieutenant asks. His answer sounds insane the moment it leaves his mouth. "A tank." Silence, then laughter, short, tense, disbelieving. Eli doesn't smile. "Not a real tank," he adds. "A shape, a silhouette. From a distance, at dawn, through fog, a shape is enough." The lieutenant's voice lowers. "You're suggesting we pretend?" Eli says, "I'm suggesting we make them think they're driving into a trap. If they think there's armor here, they'll stop to confirm. They'll radio, they'll reposition, they'll wait for orders." The sergeant shakes his head. "That's a long shot." Eli nods. "It's the only shot we've got." They start immediately because night doesn't last forever. Men who are preparing to die suddenly have something else to do. They move like machines, quiet, focused, almost relieved. Eli directs them without acting like he's directing. He simply says what needs doing. Canvas, wood, anything round, anything that can look like a turret. They find scrap planks, they find spare tent cloth, they find old oil drums, they find empty fuel cans. In war, the battlefield is a junkyard full of possibilities. They drag the broken truck into position, they strip it down, they stack wood to create the body shape, they wrap canvas over the frame, tightening it to look like armored plating. Then comes the genius part. Simple, nasty, effective. Eli takes mud, oil, and ash, mixes it like paint, and smears it across the canvas to kill the shine. A shiny surface screams fake. A dull, dirty surface whispers real. He adds a gun barrel using a long pipe scavenged from the truck's wreck. From far away, it looks like a cannon. And then he does something even smarter. He builds 3 more. Not full decoys, just partial shapes behind hedgerows, enough to create the impression of defended position. The goal isn't to convince them forever. The goal is to convince them for 1 hour. 1 hour can change a battle. As they work, the sergeant watches Eli with growing disbelief. "You ever done this before?" he mutters. Eli keeps tightening rope around canvas. "No, Sergeant." "Then how in the hell do you know it'll work?" Eli pauses, glances toward the road, and says something that sounds like a lesson from another world. "Because they'll be looking for threats, and when you're looking for threats, you find them." They finish just before dawn. Fog hangs low. The decoy tank sits in the road bend like a predator waiting for prey. Eli positions men behind hedgerows with instructions. "No firing unless I say. Let them see it first." The lieutenant swallows hard. If this fails, Eli doesn't answer. He doesn't need to. Everyone knows. Minutes later, they hear it. At first, it's distant, like thunder under the earth. Then it grows into a heavy mechanical growl. Engines, metal tracks, the sound of weight moving toward them. The enemy column approaches. Eli presses his cheek against the dirt, watching through a gap in leaves. His heart pounds so hard he feels it in his teeth. Then the first vehicle appears through the fog. A half-track, then another, then the dark, unmistakable outline of a tank behind them. The enemy slows as the road narrows. The lead vehicle rounds the bend, and then it sees it. The decoy. For a single second, nothing happens. Then the lead half-track brakes hard. Soldiers inside jerk forward. A man stands and points. Another swings a weapon toward the tank. The column stops. Engines idle. Radios crackle. Men shout. The enemy is no longer confident. They are cautious. And cautious armies move slowly. Eli whispers almost to himself. Now they're thinking. He raises a hand, signaling his men to stay still. The German tank rotates its turret slightly, slow, suspicious, aiming at the decoy. If the decoy looks wrong, if something gives it away, if a gust of wind snaps the canvas, they're dead. Eli's throat goes dry, but the fog helps, the distance helps. The fact that the enemy expects resistance helps most, because belief is powerful. And right now, the enemy believes there's armor here. Minutes pass, then something incredible happens. The enemy begins pulling back, repositioning, spreading out, scanning hedgerows. They're acting like they've driven into a killing zone. The lieutenant looks at Eli with wide eyes. It's working. Eli doesn't celebrate, because he knows the illusion won't last forever. The question isn't, will they realize? The question is, how long?